Exchanges are currently manipulating the Bitcoin price and deliberately keeping it low. These are the current allegations by Tom Lee that we will now examine. Furthermore, there is panic in the market, as there is now really a rumor that the USA is selling Bitcoin. Massive Bitcoin holdings are being moved from the USA Bitcoin wallet, and now many are concerned whether Joe Biden can sell Bitcoin before Donald Trump can establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Let's see if there is really a massive Bitcoin attack from Joe Biden. Highly sensitive topics. By the way, I am in a really cool location. Check this out, here in El Salvador. But now we are looking at what is currently happening with Bitcoin because we are not really breaking through the US dollar mark. So there is really a resistance here, and it could actually be that the price is being manipulated by the exchanges. 2001. At least that is the accusation from Tom Lee. Let's quickly take a look at his statements. On one hand, he is ultra bullish and predicts prices above this year.
On the other hand, he actually sees the cryptocurrency exchanges as a current risk. Concern for investors and traders because there is a pretty low supply of Bitcoin, which is the leading cryptocurrency, available over the counter. So you have a supply shortage. This shortage could potentially lead to increased volatility in the market. And if Bitcoin makes a move above 100,000, I think there'd be a big chase. So still confident Bitcoin is going to close much higher before year end. Before year end. Yeah. So break $100,000 before the end of the day. Yeah, well, above 100,000 before year end. It's just a matter of time. December 2nd. Do it. For week come next point.
This is very interesting. He talks about a supply shock on exchanges, but also at the OTC desks, meaning that there are currently very, very few Bitcoins available, and that people are withdrawing more and more Bitcoin. And if the Bitcoin price rises above US dollars now, it could be that the exchanges will have problems because there is too little liquidity on the exchanges, too few Bitcoins. And that is why he believes that many exchanges currently have an interest in keeping the Bitcoin price low. He doesn't say exactly how the exchanges are manipulating the Bitcoin price, but he definitely states that it could become problematic for the exchanges. If the Bitcoin price rises above US dollars, what happens then? The demand for Bitcoin will become even higher. And if the supply is already very, very low, then there could be a simultaneous shock, meaning that we could really too little liquidity on the exchanges in the short term. That is at least his accusation. Whether that will really happen, have no idea. I mean, there is always talk of the supply shock. Often nothing happens after all, or it really is just a few hours or a few minutes where trading at an exchange might have to be suspended or something. So I don't believe that there are currently massive manipulations by exchanges. But of course, there are always players who want to keep the price low because they also want to buy cheaply. And with Bitcoin, it is simply the case that the price is determined on the exchanges and not by the 21 million available Bitcoins. If there are fewer and fewer Bitcoins on the exchanges, and let's say demand increases, and there are perhaps only 1 or 2 million Bitcoins on the exchanges, then the Bitcoin price can be massively pumped up with relatively little capital. This is the multiplier effect that I have often talked about here. That, for example, with $1, you can not only pump the market capitalization of Bitcoin up by $1, but perhaps by 5 times. Bank of America even mentioned a multiplier of over 100 times. This is also what he warns about. That is why he is bullish and says that we will definitely see Bitcoin prices over US dollars this year. And then we actually have the somewhat panic-inducing news from the USA, which transferred Bitcoin on Coinbase. And now many people currently assume that this could be a sale. Here you can see the article or the tweet from Block Trainer where he writes that it could very well be a sale. However, we have seen this more often in the past, that Bitcoin was transferred here also to Coinbase. That was once because things were simply changed in the cash register. There were new custody solutions for the Bitcoin that the USA has confiscated here. So these are confiscated Bitcoins, the nearly Bitcoin that the USA has confiscated. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that the Bitcoin, let's say, is being sold. The reason many assume that the Bitcoin is being sold now is because when you send Bitcoin to the exchange, you often assume that the Bitcoin is really up for sale. Because why else would you send the Bitcoin to the exchange? Otherwise, you would just keep them. But it could also simply be that one is changing the custody, and Coinbase is now taking over the custody for the USA coins. That would be the second variant. That many assume, and panic is always created. This has happened quite often in the past. I don't know how many videos I've made about the USA selling Bitcoin. It was always just shifts, and the market anticipated whether Bitcoin might be sold here. But in the end, the Bitcoin was never sold. It was just shifts in the security layer, where something was changed and so on. It could also actually be that the bullish case is that preparations are being made for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, that something is being reallocated here to prepare a strategic Bitcoin reserve. If Donald Trump should become the new Bitcoin president here, or he is already the new president, but if he is also officially inaugurated here. And then there are, of course, the conspiracy theories, and I'm not the only one who thinks this way, but it could actually be that Joe Biden wants to massively undermine Donald Trump here, because Joe Biden certainly does not want Donald Trump to appear as a super president, but rather as a loser, and he knows very well that Donald Trump wants to build a Bitcoin reserve here. And what a great move it would be from Biden's perspective if he sells the Bitcoin from Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump cannot start his Bitcoin reserve with Bitcoin, but perhaps has to start with 0 Bitcoin. That would certainly not do Donald Trump any favors and would massively manipulate and attack the whole endeavor. I don't know if one can accuse him of such things, but I mean, a lot can be expected from the Biden administration. It is also assumed that the two administrations will still put other obstacles in Donald Trump's way before he ultimately takes office. What is bullish about this perspective, however, is that it also means that the Joe Biden administration, if Joe Biden is really responsible for the sale of this Bitcoin, then wow, how crazy, how important this is right now. If Joe Biden is indeed responsible for this, it could also mean that Joe Biden might have insights that Donald Trump will really go through with his reserve strategy, because if Joe Biden knows that the reserve strategy is not coming, then there is no need to sell the Bitcoin. But if Joe Biden has insights and actually sells Bitcoin to manipulate the reserve strategy, then that would also mean the bullish case that Donald Trump will indeed follow through. This means you can see it as bullish or bearish. I mean, in the long term, it's probably, let's say, irrelevant. Bitcoin will prevail in the long run. But in the short term, there are always price manipulators where people either panic massively. It can also be, as we talked about Tom Lee, who mentioned that the Bitcoin price is being manipulated, that people, especially from the exchanges, want a low Bitcoin price. It could also be that such news, such FUD news, or these are not FUD news, these are facts, that the Bitcoin is being moved. But it could also be that the Bitcoin is being moved back and forth by the US to create exactly this panic so that people sell their Bitcoin, causing the Bitcoin price to drop even further. This means there could certainly be a connection, but this theory about the connection is already very far-fetched. We have also seen in Germany that it was not the best move to sell the Bitcoin, or rather not Germany, but at least Saxony, that it was actually a very, very bad option to sell the Bitcoin. Now, the Bitcoins are worth so many more billions. I don't know exactly how much, but that's ultimately what you often see in hindsight. When you sell Bitcoin, it always looks very, very bad. Right now, it looks pretty good. Okay, hey, Bitcoin is being sold, made a little profit, we can build new roads with it, or buy some weapons again. But in the long run, you realize, hey, you had massive opportunity costs if you didn't hold on to the Bitcoin. And then we actually have a very interesting story here, namely Eric Trump is giving a keynote at the Bitcoin Mena here. I believe it's in Dubai or something, it's actually in Abu Dhabi. It's very interesting that now the son of Donald Trump is giving a keynote here, but the question is whether he is really giving a Bitcoin keynote or if it will turn out to be some kind of shitcoin thing again. That means it now says Bitcoin keynote, but it could also be that he talks about NFTs or shitcoins later. So's EOS, somewhat bullish. So if he actually talks about Bitcoin here, that would be really, really cool. It could also be that he just puts on another shit show and talks about shitcoins. I find it rather astonishing at the moment when you observe the Google search queries. Bitcoin is not being searched for that much, but where the search queries are massively increasing, all the shitcoins, ultimately, you saw this in all the recent cycles as well, that when the Bitcoin price eventually, let's say, doesn't rise strongly enough, like it has some kind of sell wall or something, then the shitcoins start to pump massively. I don't understand why everyone is so keen on Ripple and whatever else right now. Now, all the world currencies and whatever else are coming back. However, one must always keep in mind that Ripple is a centralized organization and that only Bitcoin can truly ensure decentralization here. I mean, I don't want to speak poorly of the investment here or anything. Feel free to buy Ripple if you want. But one really has to distinguish that Bitcoin is truly a decentralized technology and Ripple is actually a centralized project. This must always be reiterated. Have more and more people asking, hey, do something like Scribble or something. Otherwise, I just wanted to say thank you. We have actually broken through the subscriber count here. Incredibly awesome that you all were part of this press journey. This also allows me to create content worldwide. A report on Bitcoin. I can enjoy myself here in El Salvador, meet cool people, and conduct cool interviews. That that was one of the coolest journeys last year, actually creating content with you, always receiving feedback. That actually gives me a lot, and I am very, very grateful for that you always comment and like so diligently. Even if you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe here. It helps the channel grow, get even better guests, create even better content, and simply take Bitcoin to the next level. I am very curious how this grill run will turn out. 2001, I have a very, very political feeling. The things that are happening right now are almost unbelievable. That we have reserve strategies discussing such things, which somehow was unimaginable years ago. Now it is simply standard to casually make videos here about Bitcoin, reserve strategies, and so on and so forth. If you want to buy Bitcoin, I will link you below to 21 Bitcoin. Easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Europe. Very simple, super easy, and convenient. 2001. Here you can also get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin if you use the code Bitcoin Hotel. And now I will show you the cool location where I am right now. I hiked up here. The Bitcoin here in Elsa. Here you can see the entire sea in the back. Bam! It goes way back there. Zoom in on that. The sea is back there. Bam! And if you go over here, look over there, you can see the sea again way back there. It actually reflects here. You can also see infinitely far. Actually, we have a starry sky here. So without stars, just with the sun. We're actually people who said that there are now chemtrails here in El Salvador. I can't see anything here, but you can comment if you see anything. Sarah, you have done so much for the journey in the video, but it couldn't be any other way here. See you then. Peace out.